Hellripper's a DIY thing, most of it, like for the most part. There are other people involved, but I enjoy the process of doing everything myself. I like the punk way of doing things, I guess, and I refused to play like that school talent shows and stuff because I hated the idea of going up on stage. It was terrifying to me. Like I like the chaos when no one's getting hurt. I like everyone's stage diving, crowd surfing. I don't care. You can come on stage. The amount of times people come on stage and like trip over my guitar pedals and unplug me. Again, it's part of the live thing.
Dude, I need to start the conversation off with a big compliment to you. And I don't know whether you ever saw the review that I did of Beyond the Gates, but I mean,
yes.
Hellripper has always been awesome. Well, so Hellripper has always been a band that's been familiar to me. A lot of people have recommended the band to me, and I've always liked what you do. But for me, a real illuminating moment and a moment of clarity was seeing you on stage at the USF Filth in Bergen, and I kind of felt a little bit like you've watched The Sopranos, correct?
Yes, I have. Well, not all of it, actually.
When Hesh talks about discovering Jimi Hendrix, and he says, "I went up to him and I said, kid, I don't know what that is, but you got it." I kind of felt like that watching you play it, and I said it on the review. I've said it many times since on the podcast. You could just tell that something special was going on that stage, and it's rare.
Thank you, man.
I see a lot of bands I like, and will be blown away by a set list. But with that, I was like, this something big is going on. Yeah.
Well, I appreciate that, man. Thank you so much. It's the highest compliment I can get, man. So I'm really glad you enjoyed the show. We were very honored to play Beyond the Gates, and yeah, I hung around for a day or two. We had to go elsewhere, but yeah, I really enjoyed myself. It was a great festival, and I would love to go back. Even just as an audience member. But yeah, thank you so much. I had a great time, so I'm glad you seemed to enjoy it as much as I did.
I did. No, I definitely did. That was I'm going to assume by the way you're talking, that was the first time playing Beyond the Gates.
Yes. Yeah.
You went on a bit of a tear as far as festivals are concerned around that time. I saw you guys had played. You played Brutal Assault. You played. Let's go down the list here: Brutal Assault, Summer Breeze, Dynamo, Rockstad, Cosmic Vibration Festival. How does and this is for my own curious purposes more than anything else, but how does Beyond the Gates, in terms of organization and in terms of just overall vibe, how does it compare to some of the other festivals you went to last year?
Beyond the Gates was definitely one of my favorite ones. But most of the things we do are well organized, and like a great amount of respect for the people that put on these festivals and the teams and the volunteers and stuff, because if you're just attending the festival, you might not put much thought into it, but there's so much logistics and so much people involved, like making sure everyone's safe and everyone's getting places on time and stuff like that. But yeah, of course, festivals and stuff differ if it's in the middle of a city, for example, Beyond the Gates was, so we kind of went around Bergen, just on our free time, and kind of enjoyed that. And you can kind of go to and from the festival to whatever you want, and it's an indoor festival as well, so the weather, I get badly sunburned, obviously. Look at like how white my skin is. I get absolutely sunburned. Like
you mean you don't get jacked and tan?
I definitely do not. If
Don't worry, I have the same issue. My wife, so my wife's father comes from Punjab. Her mother is white, but she's got that like just touch of like Indian tan ability. She will stick her fucking pinky into the sun, and she'll look more tan than I am able to look in 6 weeks worth of running around bare chested in the sun. So I suffer from the same ailment as you.
Yeah. On tour, I just get sunburned and fat just eating garbage food, and just burning in the sun. But yeah, it just really depends on the organization and the vibe of the festival. You know, a lot of these festivals, like Beyond the Gates, for example, I'll use Hell's Heroes as an example. That was one of my favorites. That didn't even feel like a festival, you know, it just felt like a big party community type thing. And you get ones that seem like super professional, that like, you know, like the bigger ones, of course, you know, like 10 stages and stuff like that. But you know, they're all enjoyable and all different experiences. You know, I know we're relatively new to playing festivals and touring in general. You know, we've only been touring properly for a couple of years, and you know, so it's not like we've played Summer Breeze like 10 times and stuff like that. You know, so it's cool to experience all these different festivals and different ways of working and meeting new people and stuff. Yeah, I enjoy the festivals, especially during the summer. Like, we didn't really do much of a tour this year. Well, last year it was more kind of throughout the year. It was just one-off festivals every weekend, which was fun, but also very tiring because, you know, like if you're on a tour, you know, it feels you're doing like however long, like a month in a row or something with minimal days off or something. So you kind of feel like that would be a bit more difficult. But no, this was like every weekend of the year basically. So it was like, and I live in the Highlands of Scotland, so I'm quite a bit away from an airport. So usually one show equals like 2 to 4 days of traveling. And then by the time I get back, I've got to go back again, you know, after 2 days. So it did get quite hardcore at one point, but rock and roll.
You, I mean, one of the things that struck me wasn't just your performance, it was how the audience responded to you. And I think, you know, they were giving you a lot of energy and you were giving them a lot back, which was great to see. But I mean, this obviously is in the build up to you announcing the deal with Century Media. You hadn't announced it yet by that point. Could you feel, you know, being in the thick of things, could you kind of feel the momentum building with Hellripper and I guess the support for the band becoming more enthusiastic, shall we say?
Yeah, kind of. You know, it's I've said a few times, like Hellripper's been growing gradually for the past 10 years since I started the thing. You know, it's been a gradual rise. It's never been like an overnight type thing, you know, gone from like 0 to 100 like after one thing specifically. And I'm really glad that didn't happen because, you know, like from where I was even after the first album to where I am now, I wouldn't have been able to deal with the changes and the logistics and the just everything that was needed, you know, to operate the band basically. It would have been just too much of a shock and too complicated, I think. So yeah, it's been a gradual rise. And yeah, it seems like people are enjoying it. You know, I can't really complain. I mean, yeah, the Beyond the Gates was really cool. We played quite early on. I mean, that's another thing with festivals. You know, sometimes you know, for Beyond the Gates, for example, it's more black metal. You know, in the crowd, I guess in general, are into black metal more. Whereas we are black metal, but more we're on the speed metal side. Like I would say we're a speed metal band with black metal elements. So, you know, you never know how the crowd will react. And yeah, when that helps us, you know, if there's like the crowd are going crazy, there's hits, and if there's stage diving, crowd surfing, or general shouting, you know, it's fun. You know, we've played shows where it's like we stop a song and then it's just dead silence. And that's always awkward, but it's you know, it's again, it's fun to experience all these different things. I enjoy it. So yeah. And yeah, I guess, the band are growing, like you say, and I am noticing it, you know, in terms of sales and the shows we play, people seem to react. And yeah, I, I don't really think about it, to be honest. You know, it's kind of weird. Every so often I will kind of take a step back and think, oh, wow, we did that. We played this festival, or we played with this band, or whatever that I never thought would be possible. And it's really, it's strange. You know, I don't even know how to process some of it, really.
I was going to ask you, you mentioned changes earlier, and you sort of hinted at logistics and whatnot. But if you think about where you came from versus where things are now, can you talk me through, or can you bring to life what you were referring to when you're talking about those changes?
Yeah, so I mean, largely the process is still the same. I still operate everything myself. I do all the social media. I run the merch store. I write the music, record the music here, and everything happens in this room basically. And it always has been. But there's just figuring out the best ways to do things. Figuring out the best way to pack and ship things. The amount of shipping and packing and stuff that comes in. The amount of tours and shows we're doing now, like we're currently in the middle of booking like 5 or 6 different tours, which all require different processes, different visas, different paperwork, different transport, different like whatever. Obviously, yeah, you get a lot lawyers involved and accountants involved, and yeah, what else? Yeah, just the general workload. Yeah, distribution. If I was independent right now, I wouldn't be able to handle that. That's why I'm on a label. Because yeah, there's just too much, for one person to cope with. But if it went from where I was after the first album to where it was now, like I couldn't have adapted to all these things. It took time to figure out the best way to run things, if that makes sense. It's like Hellripper's a DIY thing, for the most part. There are other people involved, but I enjoy the process of doing everything myself. I like the punk way of doing things, I guess, and I like to deal with as much things as I possibly can, and things do get complicated, like with shipping and tariffs and customs and Brexit and additional VAT for different countries and whatever. So it's good to, like I say, it's good to have had time to figure out all that, because it's annoying as fuck.
I'm about to say, it's not something you can go to school for, so you're kind of having to learn on the fly as you go on. What would you say are the biggest lessons that you've learned, or the hardest lessons that you've learned as you've navigated this evolution in the band?
Probably keep it like getting some sense of organization or some sense of scheduling. Before I used to be able to kind of just do things when I wanted, like I could go, oh, I'll deal with this here and then I'll respond to this later and all that. But now this is my full-time job, so it's treated as a full-time job, and the work is there for a full-time job. So it's cool just to be able to organize myself to get things done. Otherwise it would be a mess. It's responding to emails, making social media posts, doing press, packing orders, tour stuff, paperwork stuff, calls with various people, whether it's the label or the booking agents or who else is involved, and then organizing rehearsals and stuff like that for the live side of things. It takes a lot of organization, and at the start, I did not have that, because it wasn't started off with the intention to be like this. It was started because I wanted to write some metal punk, and just that was it. And
I was about to say,
yeah.
You would have been balancing a day job, I'm assuming, up to at least a certain point, correct?
So I was at university until luckily the band kind of started taking off as I graduated university. So I was at uni and I had a part-time job, and then I graduated uni, and then the band kind of allowed me to be full-time.
What did you graduate in?
So business IT.
All right, okay. And so,
and I did 3 years of computing science, and then eventually graduated with a degree in business IT, and then moved out of Aberdeen. And luckily, yeah, the band kind of started sustaining itself, which was really lucky and just perfect timing, really. And yeah, I'm grateful for that, because yeah, it's been like that since. And yeah.
there's a lot of talk at the moment about the cost of touring and the cost of being in a band. And I mean, I'm sure you saw the John McKenty video where he was asking fans to bring food donations. At Inferno this year, they've got a panel about, how expensive it is to tour in the States. How have you found things like that for Europe? Because I mean, Europe is kind of where you guys spend most of your time, at least when it comes to the road and when it comes to playing shows. Like, I guess logistics wise, business wise, you mentioned some of the tariffs and things like that, but just in terms of costs, is it manageable for a band at your level to be able to do, play shows and do so profitably?
Yes, absolutely. I mean, I'm only speaking, I can only say from my experience, and there's different ways of bands working. I'm a solo project, so that's a big reason why I can kind of make a living from this, because, I'm not splitting the money 3, 4, 5 ways and with a manager and all that kind of stuff, but I always try and keep the costs down, we tour within our means. I don't accept shows if we're going to make a loss on them. But it can be hard. But for me, just the way we work, we figured out a system. We invested in our own van, our own equipment, and we've got a base in the UK, a base in Europe, that we can do stuff from. I do the merch myself. Instead of hiring like other people, I'm happy to take on extra work and do that if it's going to be the difference of a few grand or whatever, after a tour. But it's just the way I like to work. Other people don't want to do the merch, or other people feel like they need someone else to do something, if it's a content creation or sound guys, light guys, guitar techs and all that, it depends what you're willing to sacrifice, really, but I always do things within my means. I'll never do anything that'll fuck me over, really. So I put a lot, like, we decline a lot of things, and everything's kind of chosen carefully and budgeted, and spreadsheets everywhere to make sure everything will work, basically, but again, everyone's situation is different, so it's difficult to say, but and touring different places is different conditions as well. Europe, a lot of countries are like amazing, treat you way better than the UK, for example. Not that you're treated badly, but it's just in general, the level of hospitality is like another level. And we've yet to go to the US, but so I can't comment on that. But yeah.
Do the guys in the other guys in the band, do they get offended when you're driving around in a G-Wagon when you guys are going on tour, or are they okay?
Well,
I'm only teasing, of course.
If you want to call the Peugeot Boxer luxury, but no, it's, I mean, I pay everyone, fairly. People get paid before I get paid.
So we don't have a Danny Filth type situation coming up.
No, I'm everyone's paid before I'm paid. Everyone's guaranteed money, and then I get the, like, if there's any left at the end, but it always works out fine. And like I say, I plan things to make the situation as good as it can be, and me and my partner like helps a lot with the band, and it's a lot of work, it's a lot of planning, a lot of stuff that a lot of that you wouldn't expect to do if you want to be just a musician. You want to just play shows and stuff, there's a lot of 90% of what I do is not music. It's it's like spreadsheets and calls and emails and booking hotels and flights and dealing with cancellations and all that kind of stuff. So yeah.
It sharpens the senses, though, I can imagine. Especially, I would imagine, especially negotiating with promoters or negotiating with venues and things like that. I mean, like some of the stories that I hear from other bands, the demands made or the offers put out to bands that are, you know, at a reasonably high level, you listen to it and you just go like, what fucking planet do these people live on?
Yeah. I mean, yeah, there's I'm glad I'm not. I really dislike the kind of the actual booking and negotiating of shows and stuff like that. So I'm glad we got a booking agent like kind of early on. You know, we were lucky to come across the guys at Doomstar, and they helped us out a lot because that's my, you know, I like doing things like I say DIY, and I take care of as much as I can. But if I don't enjoy something, I don't want to do it. You know, so I'm gonna and they can do a better job than me as well. So they deal with that kind of thing. But yeah. You know, some of the offers I've had and demands and stuff and whatever is, you know, not been quite, you know, eye-opening. You know, you see like what some bands are doing, and it just and it's kind of the norm, you know, because no one knows, or young bands are like targeted to like rip off and stuff like that. You know, just in general. I mean, yeah, there's a lot of aspects I don't like within the industry, and I just kind of, I just kind of work within my own bubble, I guess. You know, I'm not a good networker and stuff like that, so I kind of keep to myself a lot of the time.
I was going to say, like, you know, when you think about, you were talking about doing a lot of press, and I would imagine with this record, you know, Century Media will be keeping you busy. Like, how have you found the attitude of the press has changed towards you as the band has become more popular?
Yeah, there's more coverage, definitely, and a lot of people that like cover us now that kind of ignored us in the past and stuff like that. But I mean, it's just the game, you know. I mean, it's just the how it works, I guess, and it's business, I guess. But yeah, I enjoy kind of doing the press. You know, I like it's always I'm very grateful that people are interested enough to want to speak to me about the band and want to share the band and want to promote the band. You know, and I you know, this is it's just it's cool. You know, I'm not the best at expressing myself, as people watching will probably be figuring out, but yeah, it's just cool, you know, that again, I'm grateful that I'm able to do this. That's the main thing, and I enjoy, like, I'm not a good networker or whatever, but I enjoy kind of when there's an actual shared thing there, or an actual like shared like connection or whatever, you know. Like, I don't, if you know, not when it's put on and it's all fake and stuff, you know. It's difficult, you know, when it's kind of the kind of the kind of whatever you would call it, the business side of things, like keeping each other like just doing things for business sake. You know, I'm not good at that. Like, I'd rather, like, I've got no problem being friends with people and that I actually like, and like, we're, you know, if that makes sense.
Yeah, but it's the pretense that comes with a lot of, you know, with pretense that comes with the increased attention, I guess, is what you're driving at, is what you dislike.
Yeah, I mean, I guess so. It's just, yeah, but I mean, you know, it's business, and you know, it's I enjoy the press side of it, you know, because like I say, I'm just grateful anyone wants to promote the album and talk to me, but I'm just not the best at communicating or keeping up with people, basically. And I kind of, I do like being on my own and doing my own thing. So I've got kind of, you know, I'm just kind of happy in my own little bubble, I guess.
And then you get up on stage, and anybody who sees you will, or has seen Hellripper, will be able to attest to this. You come across as the most outgoing, like, you know, ballsy frontman that I've seen in a very long time. I'm especially pedantic about frontmen. Like, I've spoken about it on the podcast so many times, but like, to me, a band lives or dies by the power of its frontman. You know, if you think about Metallica in 1991, if you remove James Hetfield from the equation, it would not be the same band. Like, there was something larger than life about his personality, how he was on stage. Just all of it was just magic. Same thing with Phil Anselmo at the peak of Pantera, and then you can go down the list, you know, of the greatest of the great bands, or at least the biggest of the big bands, the front man and what sort of role they played. So it's interesting getting the dichotomy in your personality when you're off stage. Different animal.
I guess so. And I don't really, you know, I've never been like a stage person. You know, I refused to play like that school talent shows and stuff because I hated the idea of going up on stage. It was terrifying to me. You know, like my music teacher and stuff would be like, "Oh yeah, you go and do this guitar thing," and I'd be like, "Nah, it's the worst thing I can imagine being on stage. Like, it sounds horrible." Like, I was just terrified, and I didn't play my first show until I was 19 or something. I think, I can't remember, 18, 19. And yeah, it's just I want to put on a good show. And people have come to see me. And then I kind of stopped thinking about it. You know, as soon as I'm on stage, it's just like, let's do a good show. And then all kind of nerves kind of disappear. And then I'm not really thinking anymore. I'm in a different zone, and I just want to have people enjoy themselves. You know, if they're coming to see us, they're paying money to see us. I want to be entertaining. And yeah, and I want to have fun with it as well. And I think the style of our music, or the live show at least, is more rock and roll, more punk, more balls to the wall. So there's the feeling that it can kind of go off the rails at any moment. And if something does go off the rails, who gives a fuck? It's part of it. And I think that's helped, you know, because I think part of my aversion to going on stage at the beginning was, you know, what if I mess up? What if I make a cunt of myself or whatever, you know? But yeah, because of the nature of our music and stuff, it's like, who gives a fuck if I fuck up or make a cunt of myself? It's just, it's the show. It's rock and roll. As long as people have a good time, I don't care. Like,
what do you remember about that first show that you played? The one you just mentioned now, when you were 19 years old?
Not much. I remember it was in Banshee Labyrinth in Edinburgh, little basement stage. It was a punk show, like I think it was an all-dayer type thing. There was like between 5 to 10 bands, I can't remember. And yeah, it went really well. You know, people seemed to enjoy it. But we kind of came in, myself and my friend who started the band, and the bass player that joined later was kind of already in the scene and kind of knew a lot of people. So a lot of people came to see us based on knowing of him and kind of hearing of us. So people were kind of ready to be positive, which was a big help, I think. You know, people weren't coming in all like cynical or judgmental. They were there to enjoy us and have a good time. And yeah, it was fun. I enjoyed it. And then from there, it's basically not stopped. That was with an old punk band, and we kind of used to tour, play the UK and Scotland quite a bit. And then, yeah, Hellripper kind of played live shows, like maybe 3 or 4 per year, up until 2019. We kind of started to make it a thing. And then the pandemic happened, and that stopped for a while. And then, yeah, we kind of went like all guns blazing for the next few years, like touring non-stop, and yeah, touring a lot in comparison, like, for us. And yeah, it's just now it just is like second nature. You know, it's weird for someone that didn't didn't like the feeling of touring, didn't like the idea of touring or playing live or whatever. Now it's just what I do.
What was it you think that made you overcome that? And can you kind of remember the turning point that helped you get over that anxiety of being on stage?
I think it was just because of the nature of the music that we were playing. You know, the old band we played in was like crust punk, amoebics styled, Venom, amoebics kind of metal punk type stuff, and it doesn't matter if it sounds awful, you know, or if you make a mistake and stuff. And I think, like I say, that was kind of what I was always kind of scared of. Oh, what if it sounds horrible? Or people, you know, people might think you look stupid or whatever. But then, you know, just the nature of the music allows you to kind of be freer, I guess. Because yeah, I fuck up all the time and I make mistakes and I fall over and shit. Like, it's just funny. It's it's part of it. And I think, yeah, just based on the nature of the music is, yeah.
The thing is, there's an appeal to that unpredictability, especially in this day and age where everything is becoming so sterile and everything feels like it's on rails. And there's so many bands where somebody asked me a question on the Weekly News Rant the other day about whether I look at whether I look up set lists before I go and see a band play, and the answer was yes, I do, and I've actually made decisions on whether to go and watch the band based on what the set list looks like. But as much as that has utility for me, because you know I'm a busy man and I don't want to travel to London for 2 hours to go and waste my time. There is a magic to that unpredictability of the live experience, like, you know, not knowing what's going to come next. I've always been really drawn to live shows, or some of my favorite live experiences are when there's an unexpected guest vocalist that comes on stage and does something, you know, with someone. When they do a cover that, you know, you don't expect. I remember one of my favorite shows that I ever saw was the show that Deicide recorded for the When London Burns live album that they put out. And it started before we even went into the venue. We were queuing outside the Mean Fiddler. Glenn Benton came walking down the street, and I could, like, you know, it was one of those things where you see this dude and it's like your brain takes like a couple of seconds to register who it is. He was walking past us and he had this half-drunk bottle of Jack Daniels in his hands, and I turned to my cousin who was with me and I said, "This is going to be a fucking good show." So we walked in. They were doing their thing. He was just, you know, and you can see it on the live show, but he's, you know, ad-libbing in between songs and, you know, carrying on like a fucking stand-up comedian. And then they, like, you know, wheeled out Christ Denied, which they, you know, he said at the time, you know, they haven't done in ages. They're going to see if they can pull it off. And, you know, just being there, experiencing that and thinking, fuck, no one is going to remember having seen, or no, I'm one of a select group of people, and that's actually the right way to phrase it. I'm one of a select group of people who's going to ever get to see this. Another experience that I had, also connected to Deicide, but not by Deicide. Deicide cancelled on the promoter at the very last minute, also at a show at the Mean Fiddler. Akrakoka was opening for them, and there was a big sign up on the door saying Deicide's not going to be playing. If you want a refund, you know, please claim it at the box office. And I'd say probably 30% of people went in to see Akrakoka. And I think because of the fact that they were now promoted to headliners, and because of the fact that they weren't playing to a full house, they just tore into one of the most astonishing fucking sets I have ever seen in my entire life. They would have played a ton of songs that obviously they weren't planning on playing because they didn't have that, they hadn't practiced for it. But it was amazing. And that happened in 2003, I would say. Okay, so 23 years later, I'm still thinking about it and I still get goosebumps just at the thought of that experience of going through that and knowing there was only a very small group of us that got to enjoy that. Yeah, I agree. Yeah, it's a lot of my early memories were like my first few live shows when I had no idea what to expect. You know, I mean, one that sticks out to me is my friend and I went to see Exhumed with Toxic Holocaust, and Exhumed have got the doctor guy with the chainsaw,
and I had no idea that was a thing, you know. And we're in the front row, and the guy just came from nowhere and just like grabbed my head, and like, you know, it was like, what is going on? You know, I had no idea that was going to happen. It's cool having stuff like that and going in kind of unprepared. And I don't mean that going into playing a show like completely unprepared. You know, there's got to be some some kind of idea of what you're going to do. But like going to a show unprepared and like, but then yeah, it depends on the band. You know, if the band has got like a whole bunch of songs that are a half and half discography that you don't like and stuff, and they've changed their style completely and stuff, it makes sense, you know, if you want to check the set list and decide what they're going to do, you know, or if they're doing a full album set of an album you don't like, or if it's your favorite album. Yeah, it's just various ways to experience a live show, and I like it. You know, I think that's what I like about Hellripper as well. The live show is like the absolute opposite view of how I view the recording side of things. Like the recording, I take ages to do stuff, and I'm always experimenting, and I'm always looking at details and fucking around with stuff, you know, that for ages and ages, and changing things up until the last minute. And I have a vision, and it's got to sound exactly like what I hear in my head, and I won't be happy till it sounds like that. Whereas live, you know, it's kind of, we go out and we don't know what tempo we're going to play at, just see what happens when we start. Sometimes we don't write the set list until we're on the stage. You know, we don't know what we're going to play. You know, we've got a pool of a bunch of songs, and we're like, what should we do tonight? Or a different order or whatever. You know, it's never like drastic. But yeah, it's just the complete, I guess it kind of satisfies both sides of me. The complete opposite sides, which, yeah, I'm lucky to, again, I'm grateful I can do that, because I didn't realize that was how I felt until doing both. Yeah.
What is the most surreal and what is the most intimidating experiences that you've had playing on stage?
Surreal. I guess surreal would probably be some of these like festival shows, you know, like where there's like if you're playing on a bigger stage at a festival, for example. I mean, we played on the smaller stage at Brutal Assault, but there were still thousands of people there, you know, and it's weird. Or just being at a festival, like we played Vakken, very small stage, but you know, I grew up like watching Vakken videos, and that was like that. Never even thinking I would do that. You know, there was no thought that entered my mind of ever playing at Vakken, you know, and things like that, I guess. And surreal, yeah, that's surreal and intimidating, I guess. Sometimes, like I say, we'll go out. It's a lot of times when we're there not to, and people just are, we're not their vibe. You know, I remember playing in a Stockholm with Spectral Wound 4 years ago now, 3-4 years ago. We played in Stockholm, and I remember people were like, yeah, we don't really mosh and stuff. And I was like, I'll get you guys to mosh. It'll be fine. And I remember just like going out and saying to the microphone, like, hey, right, I want to see a mosh pit. And they all collectively just in unison just went, nope. And I was like, oh, okay, well, fair enough then. How do you? Okay, I'll carry on. I guess I'm not. But I mean, it was funny, you know. Again, it's making a cunt of yourself on stage, but you know, I don't care. It's funny. There was a guy got on stage and got me in a headlock once during Roadburn, which was weird. Yeah.
You didn't pull a Mortus from Marduk and judo throw him onto the monitor.
No, I carried on playing the song. Actually, I don't think I made a mistake. That's how skilled I am. No, yeah, I carried on playing the song. And I remember the guy. He was like in my ear. He's like, "Can I hurt you? Can I hit you?" And we were playing the song. I was like, "No, what the fuck?" And he was like, and eventually he was like, "Okay." And then he just got off me and went off stage. Yeah.
Jesus.
It was weird. Again, it was so strange. But yeah, we just carried on playing the song, and I was like, yeah, I had no idea if I was playing it
Where
right and
was
stuff. So I
this?
just tried to concentrate. This was at Roadburn. We played Roadburn
Oh, sorry. Yeah,
Festival.
you
Like
did. You said it, Rodburn.
the warm up. It was like the warm up day.
I
Yeah.
was so fucking blown away by some lunatic telling you, "Can I hurt you or can I hit you?"
Yeah, yeah.
Like,
It was so strange. Like it was like a drunk guy, and throughout the show he was annoying our bass player. I don't know, I can't remember what was happening. I think he was like spilling his beer or something like on the stage, and he was shouting at our bass player and stuff, and our bass player was just confused. He was like, what's going on? And then eventually he just got on stage during a song, and yeah, I can't remember what happened, but I ended up like on the floor with him giving me a headlock, and I was just like, I had no idea what was going on, so all I thought was like, I'll try and play the song. Hopefully it sounds right, I guess. And everyone just carried on, and everyone was just like looking weird. And then the security guy, Kate, I don't think they were expecting anything to kind of transpire, so there was like no real security. And then the security guy appeared like 5 minutes later, like, "Oh, sorry, we didn't expect someone to come on stage and do that." So, yeah,
it's funny how that has kind of fluctuated over the years. I remember after Dimebag got killed, security at the Astoria, at the Mean Fiddler, even at the Underworld were seriously heavy-handed. Like if you came anywhere fucking near the stage and you looked like you were going to try and get on, you would get your ass handed to you, like without question. And then it kind of mellowed out for a little bit. Then Bataclan happened with Eagles of Death Metal. And then again, there was like a period of, I'd say maybe 6 months or so, where I remember I went to a show about a week after that incident, and it took over an hour for everybody to get into the Electric Ballroom in Camden because everyone was getting frisked, everyone was getting checked.
Yeah.
But yeah, I do. I mean, I like chaos and carnage and stuff at a show, but if somebody grabs me by the head and says, "Can I hurt you?" I'm fucking over them. It's like, okay, mate. As long as I can get a couple of preemptive strikes in, then go ahead.
Yeah, it was just so weird. Yeah, but yeah, I like the chaos and stuff, and obviously I like the chaos when no one's getting hurt. I like everyone's stage diving, crowd surfing. I don't care. You can come on stage. The amount of times people come on stage and like trip over my guitar pedals and unplug me. Again, it's part of the live thing. I don't mind. It's punk. But when people like start getting hurt or the security's not doing their job properly, and just letting people fall or whatever, that's the shit side of it. But on the other hand, like there's security that like do deserve a lot of praise for keeping people alive. It's like just see, like from being on stage and I see people coming over the barrier and like stuff like that, and in the security, like dealing with like 10 or 20 people at one time, like doing their job properly. It's like these guys are like should be praised. And also, we've done shows where the security have been fired after our show because they did fuck all and people got hurt as a result of them not helping. So it's just it's part of the show. You want everyone kind of on the same side doing their task, doing their job. It goes from the band to the security to the promoter and everything. If everyone's there to facilitate a good show, it's amazing.
What was the most unhinged, like wild show that you ever played, and where was it?
Unhinged or wild. I remember we played in the Netherlands at Welcome to Hell Festival, which was cool. It was like speed metal and stuff like that, and it was like we played Enforcer, Venom Inc., Schizophrenia, Butcher, I think. Yeah, loads of like just like mad speed metal stuff. And there's a video of us playing. There was no barrier, no security, and I love the Netherlands. Like the Netherlands is one of my favorite places to play because it's always just such a good reception. They've got such a good scene, and they're so supportive of the arts and stuff like that there. And yeah, it's like there's a video where you can just see the crowd like swaying, like everyone's just kind of moshing at the same time and like in unison, like just swaying, and it just looks mad. And people like flipping off the stage and stuff like that. That was fun. Hell's Heroes again was cool. There was like we played quite early, so you never know how people are going to react. And yeah, there's like guys in like trash cans, kind of crowd surfing, and I tried to get in the trash can while the guy was crowd surfing. It didn't go to plan. Yeah, probably a lot. Yeah, I'm just trying to think. The good thing about our type of music is most of the time, if it's our audience, or if we play late enough at a festival and everyone's drunk enough, everyone's going to go quite mad. Yeah, those are the two that stand out. I'm probably missing something, but yeah, Mexico was cool, but in a different way. It was just the crowd. It was like separated by like a barrier in the middle, like a pathway in the middle, and there was like 3 pits going on, like at each side and stuff. So that was really cool. Yeah, usually I like the smaller stages where people are like, where you're in people's face and they're like they're welcome to run and stage dive and stuff, and they kind of know you kind of know what to expect if you're at the front at like one of those shows, so everyone's kind of got the same idea, everyone's kind of helping everyone and not being a dick to other people that are crowd surfing and stuff, because yeah, there's been quite a few. It's just the nature of the music again, I think.
As the artist on stage, and I've always been curious about this, and I've asked a couple of people about it, but I'd love to get your perspective. How does the energy coming from the audience differ for you when you're in a small venue versus when you're doing something like Brutal Assault? When there's like 6,000-7,000 people standing in front of you versus 600-700 people.
Yeah, it's just a lot more kind of intimate. So you're like right in people's faces. I mean, first of all, yeah, if there's no barrier and stuff, they can you're closer, they can react like right in your face, you get right in their face and stuff, and they can jump off stage and do all that kind of stuff. Whereas, yeah, if there's a barrier, like if you're at a festival, sometimes you're like 10 meters away from the audience, and I guess it's harder for a crowd to get involved in that way, if they're so far away. It's like you're watching from a distance. It's speaking as an audience member myself, it's if I'm like at the front and like who I'm watching is right there, you can kind of get into it. But if I'm miles away, I just kind of sit back and kind of watch as if it's like a like just a like a TV show. But yeah, it really differs, the fact that you're playing to that many people kind of gives you the energy as well, because there's more going on, there's more people reacting and stuff. But and then on the other side, there's more, if it goes wrong, there's more people to not enjoy your show.
The stakes are higher.
Yeah. Like I say, like we've played shows where we come out to pure silence and we finish a song pure silence and maybe a tiny little and it's it's just part of it, like not everyone's going to like you. I go out, do the best I can, hopefully people enjoy it. If it's not your thing, fair enough, thank you for checking us out. If you enjoy it, thank you very much, I appreciate it.
What is harder to deal with for you? Would like hostility from the audience, like you're opening for Slayer and what happens to 9.5 out of 10 bands that open for Slayer happens and people go, boo, you suck, get off the stage. Would you deal better with hostility or with indifference?
I don't know. I've never had actual hostility like that before. We've had some indifference where it's just awkward, and I think I don't like the awkward feeling. I think I'd rather have the hostility.
Yeah.
I don't want fucking people throwing fucking coins at me or something like that. You know, I don't, not that level hostility. If people are just shouting,
bottles of piss.
yeah, exactly. I don't want that. I'd rather
the thing
people
is,
just be indifferent. But
you're a young blood, though. And by the way, happy birthday! Your birthday was 10 days ago, right?
yes, yeah. Thank you very much.
You share my birthday month, and again, much like Winterfilleth, I'm going to assume this new record was being released on the 27th of March as some sort of tribute to me. So thank you very much for that. But no, I was going to say, you know, you're being a younger blood, like in the early 2000s, like the hostility that some bands would get was fucking brutal.
Yeah.
Brutal.
Yeah.
There was a band called Ellis that opened for Slayer at the Astoria, and the booing got so insane you couldn't hear the band play anymore. And then the woman who was singing for the band made the worst mistake. She flipped the audience off, turned her back on the crowd, and started doing the next song, and then the bottles of piss just started flying.
Yeah.
It was wild. Like you watched it and you started to actually feel, I think they even got a few sympathy claps because of that. It was like, you guys have put up with a lot of shit to play in front of this audience.
Yeah.
Nowadays you definitely don't see that kind of thing anymore.
Yeah. I think with the advent of like social media and people are more aware of the life of a band, of an artist, of people like trying to support themselves, you know, especially smaller bands, you know, if you're opening for Slayer, you know, you might not be a big band or whatever, you know, and I think people are more sympathetic towards artists now, you know, there's more kind of awareness for, you know, helping bands make money and stuff rather than before where it would just be like, fuck it, let's download everything for free, whatever. So there's probably a shift in that sense. Yeah, I have heard some stories. I've never been to a show where like it's been hostile. But yeah, my partner told me a bunch like bands opening for Iron Maiden and the crowd just like turning their back, like just collectively everyone just turning their back and stuff. And I mean, it's just not nice, I guess, for a band. You know, if you're there, you know, it's not the opening band's fault that you know, it's like that Henry Rollins thing when he's saying, I think it's about Iron Maiden. He's like, yeah, people think that you're the obstacle between seeing Maiden now. Like if you weren't there, Maiden would be on an hour earlier and playing a longer set. And it's like, that's not how it works. And they blame the band. But yeah, I'm glad that's not a thing anymore. Well,
I was going to say though, it has also been the place where legends are born. I mean, you know, outside of black metal and speed metal, very famously, Dillinger Escape Plan opening for System of a Down. I hate System of a Down, but they opened for them, and every single night the audience was booing. And by the end of the show, everyone was like, "We'll kind of get what these guys are about." So that you know, I think the best bands always treated that scenario like an opportunity. But there's no question. I mean, for a period of time, if you were opening for Slayer, Morbid Angel, and Iron Maiden, I'd say those were the three toughest.
Yeah.
Danzig, I saw a couple of times where people were like, they were not having any of the opening band. I can't remember if it was, but it was always also, you know, the blame also sat with the promoter many times because some of the bands that were booked in front of some of these dudes was just fucking insane. I think, if I'm not mistaken, Breed 77 was booked before Danzig once, and that was just a complete, well, exactly. There's a complete disaster. You know, with Morbid Angel, the times that I've seen them quite a few times. Akrikaka played before them, and that was really good. But then they would have other bands, and people would they're just not into it. They don't want to hear it. They want the band to be done, and they give you very short shrift. You've got like 30 seconds to impress, or you need to go.
Yeah.
But Lamb of God opened for Slayer once, and this was Lamb of God back in the As the Palaces Burn days, and they fucking killed. I mean, the audience just ate it up. They loved it.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of these stories, you know, where the bands opened up and that was the making of them, you know. I mean, the famous one would be like Metallica with Ozzy in '86 or whenever it was.
Sepultura like, opening for Sodom at the Underworld.
Yeah,
that's like one of the most legendary stories.
Yeah, so there's like loads of them, you know. Yeah, if it goes well, then you're on to a winner, I guess, you know. But you've got to put up with it. It's again, I guess it's with most things in life and with art. It's how you deal with the problem or the scenario or whatever, you know. That's why I always just treat it as my kind of whole persona. I mean, it's just me in general, you know. I just go out to enjoy myself. I want to have the best time I can, and you know, I'll go out and do what I'm going to do on stage, whether people are loving it or whether people don't like it. You know, I'm still going to run around and act like an idiot and stuff. Like it's, and hopefully win them over if they don't like you. And I guess that's part of the challenge. It's like with reviews and stuff. People get, you know, if people like get a negative review or not even negative, but like not a perfect review, they kind of have some people get really reactive and whatever. And it's like, it's people's opinions. Like I've got opinions that, you know, I don't like everything, you know, doesn't mean I hate this band and stuff, hate these people and wish them ill and stuff. You know, I don't like this new band's album. Cool. It's not my thing, you know. Like, yeah, it's just deal with problems the right way. Just overcome anything thrown at you, I guess, to the best of your ability. Try not to dwell on things. If a show goes wrong, try just go back to normal the next show. Hopefully it's better, you know. It's yeah.
So you're on the cusp now of releasing, I mean, probably I think it's fair to say your most anticipated record to date.
Yeah.
A lot of you know, again, a lot of positive noises around this, like, you know, as has been the case with a lot of bands this year. I mean, this 2026 is so far shaping up to be just an astounding year for music. But I mean, first question for you, just related to the new album, how did the Century Media Records deal come around?
Basically I was out of contract, and our booking agent was like, do you want me to tell people that you're like out of contract? And I was like, yeah, I guess so. And then a few labels got in touch, and I met with a few labels, and I knew the guys I knew people that worked at Century Media as well, like kind of already, or not like friends, but like knew of them and spoke with them a few times and stuff, and they were into the band, and it just kind of went from there. It just felt, you know, it came quite naturally. It wasn't anything complicated, or anything, no crazy story about signing a contract and blood or anything, just kind of it
I did hear one rumor though, and I've got this on good authority from somebody I know at Century Media. Apparently you sent them an email back after they sent you the first draft of the contract, and you said, the advance number on the contract is 5 digits, but my advance number has 7 digits. How are we going to close that gap?
Yep. I mean, we'll need to cut this part because we can't have that going out. Everyone will know.
They're going to know your techniques, your negotiation tips. Nothing really, you know. Nothing really to report on. Really, just kind of happened. Was there a lot of interest when people found out that you were out of contract?
There was, I think I spoke with 4 or 5 labels, and all of them very, you know, I think I would have been happy with any of them. You know, they were all cool. But just after speaking with Century Media and the team I was working with, and their vision for the band closely matched my vision, and it made most sense to me. But yeah, it was really cool, you know, having people interested in the band, you know, because these were all labels as well that I've sent demos to in the past, and all of them rejected the band and stuff. So it's, you know, that's a lesson in never giving up. See, overcoming a failure, or not a failure, but like a bad response or whatever you want to call it. Yeah. And it went, yeah. Like I say, there's so much good labels out there, and, you know, a lot of it, it just depends on your vision, the label's vision, the team you're working with, the plans and stuff like that. And I wanted to kind of focus on the American market. I wanted to increase our visibility over there because we've got that's probably where our biggest fan base is, even though we've never toured there and stuff. And I want to get over there and tour properly and kind of do that. And so that felt like the place to go to do it as well. And yeah, just kind of letting me do what I want as well with the music. And yeah, it's just, yeah, most of the big labels, like depending on your goals and stuff, they're capable, it just really depends on what you want.
Yeah, and also whether or not they're going to get behind you. I mean, my understanding from seeing other interviews with you is that the labels have been really supportive of what you do, and you haven't gotten notes after they heard the record for the first time and said, "Well, I think it'd be nice if you could include something like this in here, and maybe a more mellow song at track number 7 or something crazy like that."
Yeah, and that's like a really big thing. I want to. I've had labels in the past say like, you'll need to like record in a proper studio and all that kind of stuff. And I don't want to change the way I work. I enjoy the way I work. That's the most important thing for me. And yeah, the labels that I spoke to, none of them, not just Century Media, but none of them, and the ones I've dealt with actually, have like tried to push the music in a direction or anything. They give feedback and they give their opinions and stuff like that, and then it's up to me to take that on board or ignore it. And whatever the final product is like up to me, really. It's just cool to have opinions from other people, especially as a solo project. Sending it to people, I send my music to my partner hears it, and the guys in the live band hear it, and people at the label and some friends, they kind of hear works in progress, and I get their opinions on things, and that's helpful, because as a one-man band, especially, I lose myself working on like a section of a song for like a month straight, and then I don't even know what I'm listening to anymore, and just getting tunnel vision. Then I'm focused on one thing and I can't hear the big picture and stuff. And then it kind of getting another perspective on that kind of helps bring you out of that and see things in a different way, and maybe offer a different way of going and just making something better. And yeah, I think that's a good thing, a helpful thing about a label as well. They'll or people at a label that are experienced and are a fan of your music. If you sign with a label and they don't like your music and just kind of, you're just there, it'll be a bit more difficult, I think. But I get the feeling that the label are behind the music and behind what I do, and they've allowed me just to continue the same way.
I think as an artist, you need to feel empowered to be able to perform the music you love doing in the way you love doing it. I've always questioned when I see, bands like Mastodon. I mean, I remember seeing Mastodon at the Underworld when the audience was, it was basically half full, the house. It was right after the release of Remission, and then a couple of years later, they substantially bigger, signed to a major label. But I've always looked at that and listened to the interviews and gone, you basically have one sponsor in that record label, and when that person leaves, you're kind of on your own. You don't have anybody that really cares about your band, and you're kind of cut adrift. I wouldn't personally, as an artist, I get the pros and cons to it. As an artist, I wouldn't want to be in that situation. I would want to be on a label that genuinely believes in what I do and is there to encourage me, rather than for me to go, okay, am I going to satisfy their expectations this time around?
Yeah, I mean, to be honest, that kind of thing happened with myself at Century Media shortly after signing. Things. A couple of the people I was working with that were behind the band left. But luckily, there were other people not involved with the band that took over these guys' spots working with me, but if, that person, if they were to be replaced with people that hated the band or didn't want to listen to the band or didn't understand the band, didn't understand the style of music, then it would be difficult, so I'm lucky that the team at Central Media were behind me, not just the people I was directly working with. The two guys involved in signing the band, they both left the label. And so, yeah. But as long as my process, my writing process, my recording process isn't interfered with, I'm happy. As long as we're getting promoted, like, by the label, then I'm happy. Yeah.
You mentioned earlier about being really fixated on perfection when it comes to writing a record label, but as you're talking about your live show and how much you love the spontaneity, the two questions I've got. One, to what degree has your songwriting, your methodology evolved over the last 3-4 records, and particularly with a view to this album? Answer that first, and then I'll ask you my second question, my follow-up.
Yeah, so I mean, I'm not fixated on perfection. I'm fixated on what I hear in my head, which is rarely perfection. I leave mistakes in albums all the time. Like, I'll fuck up, and I don't care. Like, if it sounds okay in the song, I like my style of playing is like sloppy anyway. I love like Hendrix and Angus Young and stuff. That's how I grew up, and I like the loose kind of playing of them, and that's kind of always stayed with me, even though one of my favorite bands is Metallica, and Hetfield's like the tightest rhythm guy ever. But my the way I write songs is the same. I still have the exact same equipment I had when I recorded the first EP in my bedroom at my parents'. Like, I literally use the same microphone, the same interface, same guitars, and the methodology is always the same. It's just I think I've improved in my ability to write. And I'm now looking at taking other influences to expand the sound. So the way I write is the same, just the kind of things I'm incorporating change, and my ability to do those things. I think at the start, in my first EP, I'd never written a song, really. I'd written a couple songs, but so I didn't really know what I was doing. And so the first stuff is like very basic, because I was happy to have a song like that made sense and just sounded like an actual song. And I kind of over the years established like the Black Speed thing as the foundation of the sound, really. And over the years, I've just been kind of slowly incorporating other things, because I listen to a lot of different music, whether metal or different genres of metal, different genres, if it's electronic or pop or indie rock or whatever, and just trying to incorporate them. I think just improving my ability as a songwriter, expanding my range of influences, improving my production, mixing, recording abilities, or whatever you want to call it, and then being confident enough to try new things. That's the main difference. And now things take a lot longer, because I'm always trying to bring in something different, I guess. Or like at the start, I wrote between like 2014 and 2017, I released maybe 4 or 5 EPs, 2 full-length albums, and like 5 splits or something like that, like a lot of stuff. And then now it's kind of like an album every 3 years with maybe a couple extra songs. And it's just comes from me experimenting more. That's the biggest change, I think, just kind of trying a million different things. Like on this album, each song exists in maybe 40 different forms. There's like 40 different versions of each song on this album, with a different bridge, a different vibe for the chorus, a different whatever, yeah, part 2.
Would you consider experimenting with writing in a much more spontaneous way? Like, and the reason I ask that question is my friend Matt Wilcock from Antichrist Imperium Werewolves, when they started Werewolves, that was kind of almost him challenging himself to write songs in, maybe one, two attempts, and then moving on to the next thing, because of the fact that, when it came to things like Antichrist Imperium and the many other bands that he was in, he would go over pieces, to such a degree, and he would focus on certain sequences in a song for such a lengthy period of time. He kind of wanted to see what it was like to write in a way where, for lack of a better phrase, you just don't give a fuck. And obviously what it spawned in Werewolves, in my view, is something that's absolutely tier one of the best death metal bands on the face of the earth right now. And just listening to you and kind of getting a feel for your attitude and your approach, it almost sounds like that might be an interesting experiment to see if you just stop giving a shit, just grab the guitar, write a song, and just see what comes out.
Yeah, sometimes that's how things work. Like this new album, for example, one of the songs, the first single, Kenile, that basically came at the very end of the process when everything was kind of done, and it was like written and recorded in like 2 or 3 weeks. Like sometimes things just come to me that way. The way Hellripper's evolved, I mean, at the beginning of Hellripper as well, like that's kind of how I wrote. Like I wrote very quickly. Now I enjoy the kind of fucking around and experimenting. And that's what I enjoy about writing. So I think it would be kind of like disingenuous to do it in a quick fire, not giving a fuck way for Hellripper. But I have done that in the past. Like I challenged myself. This was like maybe 10 years ago now. I bought an acoustic guitar and I was like, I'll write and record 2 songs in one night or something and just see what happened. I wrote 2 little acoustic pieces that were out there at some point. I don't know. I don't even know if they're online anymore. And I think I will with other projects, like write in a different way. I think that where Hellripper is at right now, I think I've got this writing style, writing process or whatever. But yeah, like I really want to do some more back to basics kind of punk type stuff where it's more not giving a fuck. And I think once all my schedules died down a bit and I'm a bit more available, I think I'm probably going to give that more of a go.
Well, brother, I am delighted for your success. I'm so glad we finally got to do this, and finally got a chance to have a proper conversation. I fully intend on exploiting this when you become much more famous and wealthy. I'll be monetizing this. One of the first in-depth interviews with James McBain. I know you've been on Iblis Manifestations twice and stuff, but forget all about that. I'll just be selling this as like, early footage of James McBain and Hellripper.
Well, I take this as my endorsement to do that. You're free to use this interview as you wish.
This is my this is going to contribute to the retirement fund. But thank you very much. Congratulations on a great new record. I think,
thank you, man.
Given the fact that you just mentioned it, we're going to listen to Kenile, and don't go anywhere, because straight after this, you've got some Unsanctioned Filth and the Weekly News Rant coming your way. James, thank you very much for your time. Catch you soon.
Thank you very much, man. Much appreciated. And thank you for the kind words.
There you have it, my friends. My conversation with James McBain of Hellripper. I feel like this one was way overdue to happen, but what a great guy he turned out to be. And as we suggested during that interview, you can get their new album, Coronac, on Century Media Records on the 27th of March. The track you just listened to, taken from that record, Kinshale. And as I usually do, the Hellripper Bandcamp will be in the description to the podcast. So head over there, buy yourself some music if you like what you heard. And of course, let James and the gang know who it was who sent you. James will be back, no question about that. Yeah, as I said, what a great dude. And a guy who I found myself rooting for him during the conversation. You know, he is experiencing a lot of success. I certainly hope he experiences plenty more. He goddamn well deserves it. On to some unsanctioned filth, and last week we played a band out of Mexico called Hierophany. Great stuff, received a fantastic response. This week for the unsanctioned filth segment, we stay in Mexico because there is another band that has been brought to my attention. They're called Of Darkness I Breed. They put out a new album, or their debut album called Monochrome Reconstruction last year. And for your listening pleasure, before we get to the news rant, here they are now with the title track off that album. Of Darkness I Breed out of Mexico with the title track off their debut album Monochrome Reconstruction that was released on the 19th of December of last year, put out independently, but they find themselves this week joining the likes of Drew Goth, Hierophany, just fucking a list of legends that have appeared on the Unsanctioned Filth segment of this podcast. And I hope that you guys enjoyed that as much as I did. Check them out on Bandcamp. I'll post their link in the description to the podcast. And if you're in an unsigned band, you want me to hear what your best music sounds like, your best tunes, drop me a line over on intothenecrosphere@gmail.com or head to intothenecrosphere.com. Hit me up through the contact page on there. Don't make me pay for the privilege of hearing your music. But if I like what I hear, I will feature it on the show, and I will also feature you on the website. Featured on the website, as you may have discovered for yourself by now, are my fellow horsemen of the podcasting apocalypse, Brandon Legion and his show Horrible 666, which comes your way on a Monday. On a Wednesday, we got your first double shot. It starts with Everything Went Black, hosted by Mike Hill. Then we've got Iblis Manifestations, hosted by my brother from another mother, Cheyenne, from the band Trivax. We also have on a Thursday Necromaniacs. That's one where Mike Hill returns. He's joined by the great Mike Scondado and Jeff Kashid. They review new and old horror movies, always one of my favorite podcasts of the week. And then we also have the first of two installments of the week for Soul Knox, hosted by the Sinister Minister. The second installment of that one comes your way on a Sunday. So make sure that you are supporting all my fellow horsemen of the podcasting apocalypse. Make sure that you check out the website for show playlists and a bunch of fucking great stuff. Merch will be up at some point soon. I can't guarantee when, but it will be up as soon as I get around to doing it. Right now, my friends, if you're the sort of whimpering simp that posts messages like, "I see the beautiful person you are on the inside," in response to some floozy's bikini pictures on Instagram, then it's time for you to hit the bricks, because this is my weekly news rant.
A roundabout for judgment. And hang them where the world can see.
All right, my friends, as always, we are kicking off the weekly news rant on metalstorm.net, the finest metal news site in all the land. Let's get this fucking show on the road. I just wanted to say one thing very quickly. I've got a couple of very, very hectic weeks coming up. I'll be in Mumbai from the 6th to the 10th of April. Then I'm going to be in South Africa from the 17th to the 27th of April. And I also have a bunch of off-site work-related obligations that I'm going to need to take care of as well. So I'm doing my very best to try and build up as much of a bank of episodes as I possibly can. But if I do end up missing a week, it's not going to be for lack of trying. But there is that risk. There is that possibility. I just thought I should mention it, just so you know. I'm not slacking on you, but life, as I said last week, life takes over. But the first headline that is grabbing my attention this week: Propane released their second new single. I actually happened to miss the first one, so curious to hear what this one sounds like. Propane have unveiled March of the Giants as the latest preview from their forthcoming studio album, Stone Cold Anger. That is scheduled for release on the 15th of May via Napalm Records. It will be their 16th full-length release and their first in 11 years. Let's hear what it sounds like.
Just when you thought that we were headed to the left. through battle, we stay claim as we sift through the cattle. And once we take, we may promise there'll be no escape. This is a march of the giants, so take heed as we fled from the tyrants. Take heed. Oh, they're so crooked that they can't see straight, and with them, with such an urgency while waiting in fact. If I'm decided to die, I'm at here, I'm gonna take aim and shoot to kill.
I'll tell you what I experienced when it comes to Propane. I'd never thought their music was particularly remarkable. I enjoyed Foul Taste of Freedom, and I liked The Truth Hurts, particularly the opening track on The Truth Hurts, Make War Not Love. But when I saw them live, and this was like back in maybe 2003, I think it was, in London, holy fuck did they impress me. They really are a band that you need to experience live, I think, to fully appreciate what they do. But I mean, as it goes, the song we just heard isn't particularly remarkable, but it's not bad either. It's not something I'm going to scream for somebody to turn off. Certainly not something that I'm going to get giddy with excitement over, though, either. Yeah, glad they're back. If you're a Propane fan, you're probably very happy about that. But yeah, as I said, I'm fairly indifferent to what I just heard there. It sounds like something I've heard, a fair few times before. And when it comes to hardcore, it's certainly upcoming albums or albums due for release, I'd get way more excited about that new Terror record. The singles that, and I haven't actually spoken about any of those singles on the News Rant, but the singles that Terror have put out from this forthcoming record of theirs are fucking nasty. So, right, moving on to the next song. Dissemblum have put out a new track called Descent. It says here, Descent is the newest preview tune from Dissemblum's forthcoming Buried by the Weight of Light album, which has surfaced online. The new outing comes out on April the 27th via Memento Mori. Bit of a slow build, this one, but I'll definitely say right around the point where we've paused, where that guitar harmony started to layer in over the main riff, it definitely became far, far more interesting to me than it was in the early stages of the song. As it happens, the two lads that make up Dissemblum have been in a ton of bands in and around Greece and the UK. So the drummer has been with, you pretty much stop counting at about 10, but it's at, bands he has been in, or actually, sorry, I should say bands he's currently active in: Atomic Breath, Burial Hordes, Chainsaw, Necrovorus, Pile of Excrements, Sacral Rage, Sons of Hades. So he's a fucking busy boy. Bands he's played with, that list is even longer. And then the person who does everything else outside of the drums, Aiz, on the photo, if you was watching this on YouTube, looks to me like he might be the dude without sunglasses. He is also in a band called Phaethon, and he's in a band called Vora. And then previously he played with a band called Injecting Chaos. So so these dudes have been around for a while. I mean, both Greek by the looks of things. It says on Metal Archives that they are based out of London, England. So probably guys that moved from their home country to come and seek their fame and fortune in London. They don't sound like your typical Greek metal band. That's neither here nor there, but just thought I would mention that. But as far as the song is concerned, I don't think that it is thumbs up worthy, but it's not bad. I'll need to hear a little bit more from these dudes to be fully convinced. Now, I didn't do any questions this week because I'm actually recording this a day or two earlier than I would normally do the news rant. But as it happens today, there were a ton of fucking huge surprises that got dropped on us. Looks to me like Metal Storm hasn't picked up on it just yet, but the first and most obvious one to talk about is that there is a new Darkthrone album on the horizon. The album is going to be entitled Prehistoric Metal, which is I find that name fucking funny. I don't know about you, but it's called Prehistoric Metal. It's coming out on the 8th of May through Peaceful Records, their longtime label. And they have put out an official lyric video. Now, I only listened to a few seconds of this, so this will be my maiden run, just as it will be for some of you listening to the podcast right now. Thoughts on Darkthrone I've shared many times on the show, but really for the last couple of albums, they've not done much for me. For me, peak Darkthrone, in terms of the style of music they were making that I like, Hate Them is the absolute best Darkthrone album that they ever produced. I understand that A Blaze in the Northern Sky, Under a Funeral Moon, and Transylvanian Hunger have their place in the pantheon of Norwegian black metal insofar as how influential they were. But Hate Them, and actually to a lesser extent Plague Wielder, absolutely fucking masterful. The last Darkthrone song that I truly got like wildly obsessed with was a track off of Arctic Thunder that they put out back in 2016 called, and I may speak under correction here, but I think it's the title track off the record, Arctic Thunder. It's either that or it's Throw Me in the Marshes. I'll double check on that, and I may confirm. I may hit pause and I may confirm after after we've listened to this new song. But yeah, that was the last time that I got truly and utterly like just fucking fist in the air, thrilled to bits at the idea of a new Darkthrone album. After that, Old Star I thought was crap. Eternal Hails I really didn't like. Astral Fortress had its moments. It Beckons Us All was also not a bad record, but again, it's not an album that I've ever had any compulsion to go back and listen to. Whereas I go back and listen to Hate Them and Plague Wielder on a very regular basis. I mean, at least a couple of times a month. I think I listened to It Beckons Us All once or twice when it came out, and that was about it. Didn't hate it upon its release. It was certainly an improvement upon Eternal Fails. But just still, I'm glad they're making the music that they want to make. And I know that there's certainly an audience for it, because if you look at the social response to the announcement of this new record, I mean, people seem like all their fucking black metal Christmases have come at once. But I'm just not necessarily part of the target audience, I don't think. Either way, let us hear what this first single sounds like. There is a certain unhinged quality to the song that I do find quite endearing. It's, yeah, again, it is not hate them, but I mean, I think nothing has been with this band for quite some time now. But yeah, there's kind of like a punkiness, which has always been present in their music, but it's really pronounced on this song, and it feels a little anarchic but raw, and I quite like that. Again, is it something that I'm going to go back and listen to over and over? I'm not sure. I'll need to hear the whole album. Right now, I'd say I'm reasonably optimistic about how it's going to sound. Will it be the best Darkthrone album to be released for 20 years? I think that the bar isn't particularly high on that one. So if it is, then yeah, I won't be surprised, put it that way. But I think the riff is pretty cool. Like I said, the overall vibe of the song is cool. The atmosphere they create is quite cool. The drums are a little pedestrian, but again, that's me being pedantic. I just have a big thing with drums that sound kind of too plain. You know, like the way that they were doing that sort of thrash beat that they have in the song. It just sounded like it was kind of like sort of plodding along. You know, I like drums where the drummer is all over the place, you know, aggressive as fuck, sounding like he wants to beat the drums like it owes him money. But again, as I said, it's not bad. So no thumbs up once again, but no thumbs down either. They don't get a brown down. Now, another massive surprise today was that a new Neurosis album dropped. So the headline over on blabbermouth.net, the Democrats' guide to rock music, Neurosis surprise release, first album in a decade, an undying love for a burning world. I think all of us had thought, and we discussed it on this podcast, I spoke about it with various guests, that with Scott Kelly leaving the band, that was the end of Neurosis, much as it was the end of anything else that Scott Kelly was involved in. But seems like the guys have resurrected themselves from the ashes of his scandalous behavior. Says here, long-running Oakland, California-based band Neurosis has surprise released a brand new album titled An Undying Love for a Burning World. Now, who has replaced Scott Kelly? Yeah, you ask, in case you give a fuck about Neurosis. Well, the answer to that is Aaron Turner, formerly of Sumac and ISIS. Not ISIS, the terrorist group, ISIS, the band. And, also, by the way, former alma mater of one Jefferson Kashid, a co-host on the Necromaniacs podcast, and a fully blooded-in member of the Horsemen of the Podcasting Apocalypse. Anyway, it says here, Aaron Turner joins the band on vocals and guitar, a name whose legacy is intertwined with the band's own and a true kindred spirit. He came straight out of the gate, contributing, writing, and presenting ideas, says the band. His energy matches ours perfectly. It's as if he was always meant to be there. Neurosis have never been afraid of change, blah, blah, blah. Apparently only playing one show this year, and that is going to be on the traditional lands of the Blackfeet. I was going to go to Blackfield of the Blackfeet Nation in Montana as part of Fire in the Mountains, and that is by special invitation of the Firekeeper Alliance, a nonprofit dedicated to reducing youth suicide in Indian country. Without further ado, I'm going to shut the fuck up and let's hear what the opening proper track, because this is actually track 2 on the record, but the opening track proper sounds like. This is a song called Mirror Deep. Welcome back, Neurosis. You have been sorely, sorely missed. I mean, there's no hiding the fact that I'm a fucking massive fan of this band. I know that not everybody listening to this podcast will feel the same way. But for me, these guys are extraordinary. And not only is it great to hear them back, but it's great to hear them back and playing in very, very fine form. That has all the creativity, the left field ideas, the kind of different eclectic influences that they tend to throw into the mix. All of it is there, done in a way that I can't recall hearing them do before, and I fucking absolutely love it. For reference, favorite Neurosis albums would be Through Silver and Blood, A Sun That Never Sets, Times of Grace, and I'm calling them out in order from 1 onwards. I really, really love Honor Found and Decay. I think that album is very, very underrated. I don't know why it gets on Metal Archives only 58%, and I've never heard people, that are Neurosis fans really raving about that album in particular. Where for me, it's one of their best. I absolutely adore "Given to the Rising." The Eye of Every Storm, fucking masterpiece. Even their last record, prior to the one that they've just put out now, Fires Within Fires, I think that had its moments as well. You can hear the absence of Scott Kelly. I mean, he had a particular riff style and a particular way of singing that is missing here, but it still sounds like Neurosis, and I fucking absolutely love it. So, like I said, welcome back, Neurosis. You have been very, very sorely missed, and the world is better for you being back in action. It was always something that I felt was always a sore point for me, like how one person's behavior would end up resulting in the entire band having to give up on what they spent a lifetime building up. That just didn't seem very fair to me. Okay, moving on. Exodus have released a video for Promise You This. Now, a lot of you have reached out and asked what I think of this new Exodus. I'll tell you in just a second, but it says here, Bay Area thrash metal legends Exodus have released a music video for their new single, Promise You This. The song is taken from their upcoming album, Goliath, due this Friday, March the 20th, via Napalm Records. Paul Clayton, long-serving member of the Legion, sent me a message on Instagram, and he said, question for the podmate, thoughts on the polarizing new Exodus, a bit of a lumbering mess with kernels of good ideas, or a fresh take with, or a fresh take on a tried and tested formula? Only one listen in myself. I wanted to be the latter, but at this time, it is the former. I have to agree with you. It is definitely the former. I appreciate the fact that after so many years in the game, they're willing to experiment and try some new things. But I do feel like a lot of shit was thrown at the wall for this particular record, and I'm not so sure a lot of it is stuck. That Goliath single that they released that we listened to a couple of weeks ago, that had its moments, but for the most part, I thought it was relatively weak. 3111 or whatever the fuck they want to call it, the first single they put out off the record, I thought that was, it's all right. I liked it at the time. I listened to it, but again, it was kind of like fast food thrash. You know, you listen to it once or twice, and then you've really heard all there is to hear, and there's no point returning to it. And then this single we just listened to right now, I don't like at all. I don't think this rock and roll thrash style suits them at all. I know that Gary's a big rock and roll fan. You get it if you listen to his autobiography or if you read his autobiography. But this is not the direction they should have gone down. You all know I was a huge fan of their last record, Persona Non Grata. There were a couple of fucking great tracks on there. In particular, one called Elitist, which I just thought was, it kind of had this snarl, this really aggressive, like young man's vibe to it. You know, it was like, it felt to me like it felt seeing them play live. And I've related that to you all before. I saw them open for Obituary. They played with Prong that evening. Prong put on a hell of a performance. Then Exodus came on, and it was honestly like seeing a bunch of fucking 20-year-olds play. I was speaking down the side of the stage to say, hey, where are the testosterone shots at? What sort of fucking meth are you guys using to get this amount of energy? So I'm rooting for Exodus to do well. I was rooting for them to do well when they announced that Rob Dukes was back in the band, but this is not it. This is most definitely not it. The Rob Dukes era, or at least the first Rob Dukes era, did have its moments. Shovel-headed Kill Machine being probably the greatest of those moments. But this is going to be one I think I'd be very surprised to see anybody really like this record. Put it that way. Also, and now we've spoken a lot about cool thrash, and last week we heard Warsenal. There's another thrash band I recently discovered called Newcomb. If they're not on the list, I'll just find a song on YouTube and we can listen to it. But fuck me, absolutely brilliant. Another thing I should mention, actually, since we're talking about old versus the new guard, we were listening to Darkthrone earlier, and you know, Darkthrone, given the direction they've taken, you could make the argument that for somebody who is not necessarily deeply entrenched as all of us in the Norwegian black metal scene, they could listen to what Darkthrone is doing nowadays and go, well, you know, Norwegian black metal has had its day. Emperor isn't putting out new albums anymore. Prometheus wasn't good. Look at what Darkthrone's doing. To them, I say, you need to wake the fuck up. There's a lot of very exciting things happening, especially in the younger generation in Norway. I discovered a band recently called Malum, and I got to tell you, this was super fucking impressive. They're about to put out their second record. When I first saw the name, I was like, Malum, is it like, you know, are they paying tribute to, are they paying tribute to Mayhem? But listening to the whole record, it is really fucking good. Now, they've got an album coming out. Well, actually, I believe it's already out. No, sorry, I take that back. It's not out yet. But they have a record coming out called From the Voids. Let me just give you a 2-minute taster of what that sounds. This is, in my view, super fucking impressive. that is fucking tier 1 black metal. I love it. And just to clarify, since I was fucking meandering and mumbling my way through it earlier, the official release date of From the Voids is going to be the 27th of March, my birthday. It is being put out by Charisma Records, and it is the follow-up to their debut record, In Nauseam. And for some reason, In Nauseam passed me by, potentially because it was released independently. That came out in 2023. But yeah, this is fucking awesome. And kudos to Charisma Records for picking up these guys. But back to my point about, you know, if anybody doubts the quality of music coming out of Norway at the moment, Misothius, I mean, Mayhem are still turning out the fucking most elite of elite black metal. You know, there's Marlum, there's Ordum Rife. I mean, the fucking list goes on. So if you don't think that Norway is still the standard bearers when it comes to black metal, yes, there's a bunch of other countries that are putting out really elite level stuff too. Australia, Poland. I mean, loads of great stuff coming out of Germany, loads of great stuff coming out of the US. I mean, of course, a load of fucking great stuff coming out of Finland. But, you know, Norway is Norway when it comes to black metal, and forevermore will be. At least I hope so. Just on the topic of stuff I've discovered and stuff I'm listening to right now, releases that came out today that I'm digging on at the moment. The biggest one, and one of the biggest surprises actually of the last couple of weeks, has been a project that Season of Mist put out. Also, by the way, Norwegian. It's called Via Dolores, and the album is called, and I'm gonna fuck this up, so apologies in advance. Guerre et pas. Now, as far as I know, the reason why it's got a French title is because Gildas, the main man in the band, he's French, and then he has enlisted, as far as I know, the services of one Frost. Not only was he member of, or is he a member of Satyricon in 1349, but his true claim to fame was being the guest of honor on episode 300 of Into the Necrosphere. But yeah, Frost drumming, Via Dolores, fucking superb. If you haven't heard it yet, do not sleep on it. Don't make the same mistake I did. And it was only because somebody at Season of Mist hit me up and asked me whether I want to have Gildas on the show that made me listen to it. We're busy working out the logistics of getting him on, so look out for that one coming up in the future. Other stuff that I'm listening to right now, the new Temple of Void record that actually came out a couple of weeks ago, but I really like their previous one. This new one is fucking completely blistering. It's called The Crawl, and that was put out on the 6th of March on Relapse Records. Really, really, really digging on that. You know, it's kind of got the doom going, it's got the death metal going, it's got the groove going. It sounds like the guys were, you know, taking some serious fucking steroids doing the recording of The Crawl, because there's you know, there's some manly testosterone all over this new record. But like I said, I really like it. And then I do have the promo for that band that I mentioned as well, Newcomb. Let's let me let you guys hear what that sounds like, because I'm not sure I'm not sure we can rely on happenstance to make us accidentally stumble onto something, and I might end up forgetting in the excitement of it all. One thing to just oh, sorry, I accidentally switched off the screen. I was going to say one thing to probably just be super clear on with all y'all is that when it comes to the news rant, I am literally recording this as I go. So from time to time, I'm going to misspeak and I'm going to make mistakes. I'm going to say something stupid. I know one thing that I said, and I don't know how the fuck I made this mistake, but I, for some bizarre reason, had it in my head that Steelfest was in June, when actually it's the middle of May. So Lockie from Australia, my apologies if I led you down the primrose path, as some people accused me of doing. A great thing for you to do is to come and go to Finland, watch Steelfest, then come to the UK, end of May, watch Fortress. fuck around for a little while, and then at the end of July, go and watch Beyond the Gates, and come and say hello at every single one of them when you see me. So anyway, Newcomb, they are putting out a new album on Redefining Darkness Records, and they put out a new single. Well, actually, not new, but oh no, it is new. They put the single out 2 days ago. It's called Into the Kill Zone. I seriously fucking love this. You guys give it a listen, and you drop me a line in the comments and tell me what you think. Hard as fucking nails. Love it. Absolutely fucking love it. Those vocals from Steve Brogdon, the guitarist and vocalist, sick. Riffing, absolutely sick. Great production, killer drumming. Everything about it is awesome. I'm not even officially reviewing this on the News Rant, but it still gets a top notch for me. I'm going to see if I can get somebody from Newcomb on the podcast as well, since the I wouldn't say the accusation was leveled, but the constructive feedback was offered last week that I need to get more thrash bands on the show. Like I said, I don't want to disappoint the Legion, so I'm definitely going to be doing that. I hope you guys enjoyed, by the way, and I know I will have said this after you heard the Hellripper song, but I hope you guys enjoyed that conversation. That conversation with James McBain. What a lovely guy. And a dude who you genuinely, all of the success that is coming to him, I mean, he really deserves. All right. Whilst rumors abound that Aaron Stainthorpe might be mounting some sort of My Dying Bride revival under a different name, featuring former members of the band, his other project, and the project that kicked off all this hoo-ha between him and his former bandmates, Parasite, have just put out a brand new single. It's called Drag Me Under. It was recorded by David Watts, mixed by the great Lawrence McCrory, and mastered by Tim Turin. You know what? It's going to be just a random thing to say, but you know what it reminds me of when Metal Storm lists like every single recording credit? There's a scene in season 2, I think it's season 2 of The Sopranos, where Christopher Moltisanti fronts some money for a band called Visiting Day to record some bullshit song in a studio somewhere because his girlfriend Adriana wants to manage them. Anyway, long story short, they have an argument about something, and the singer of Visiting Day says to the producer who's been working with him, "Hey man, just so you know, I recorded in Denmark." It's just, I don't know why it always reminds me of that, but any time that I read one of these articles on Metal Storm and I see it was recorded by this person that no one's ever heard of, and it was mixed by this person that fucking no one knows, I always think of that. Like, hey man, I recorded in Denmark. Anyway, let's hear what Drag Me Under sounds like. Another one that I'm pretty sure is not going to be to everybody's liking, but I enjoy it. I feel like High Parasite with Forever We Burn, it was very much everybody, I think, in the band dipping their toes into the water to see what would happen if they all got together and they made some music. And they more or less admitted as much when Aaron Stainthorpe and Toombs was on the podcast with me. And whether the previous single Cold that they put out or this one, I feel like they've got they've taken a lot of confidence from these tours that they've been on, from the response that people have given the band, and I think now we're potentially going to see something pretty special when they put out their next full-length album. So, you know, I can hear definitely a bit more industrial influences here, you know, some darker gothic elements. But then, of course, Aaron is sticking to, you know, there's been no clean singing in those first 2 minutes that we've heard, so he's sticking to the death growls. His death growls sound pretty unique. I mean, I like them, but they're not, you know, they're not death growls in the sense of like a Glenn Benton or, you know, somebody like that. But then he's never meant for it to be that way, so we should be fair too. But overall, song is very cool, very catchy, very memorable, and it bodes well for this band's future. No question about that. Ashen Horde have got a new album coming out in May. It is a busy old year, man. So many bands coming out with new stuff, and then so many bands dropping surprise releases. Again, I can't reveal because when I mark something as G14 classified, and somebody shares something in confidence with me, I shan't. I definitely won't share anything. I can tell you right now, I know for an absolute fact of two major surprises coming out this year. That, you know, both albums I think will impress the fucking bejesus out of you when you hear it. One of them I've heard in its entirety, and I know that surprises are coming in the next 2 weeks or so. So keep your eyes peeled. But the other one will be later on this year. But yeah, this is just it's a very, very busy, very hectic year for great music. we're all benefiting. I'm not complaining. But Ashen Horde is a band I have enjoyed in the past. I've had Trevor Ports on the band as well. On the podcast as well. Great dude. Great to see him back. Los Angeles extreme metal outfit Ashen Horde have released a music video for Entropy and Ecstasy, the first single from their upcoming fifth full-length, The Harvest, due on May the 1st, 2026. The track introduces new vocalist Cole Chamberlain from Putrefier, Necrotic Remains, making his first appearance on a full Ashen Horde album after debuting on the band's 2024 EP, Decade. Great song. This is a band that I honestly think have gotten better over the course of their 5 albums. Their first one was Sanguinium Vindicta. That came out in 2014. They put out 9 Plagues in 2015. Fallen Cathedrals in 2019, just for your reference. Antimony in 2023. And now we've got The Harvest. First impressions are that this could potentially be the best thing they've put out so far. I like those vocals very much. I love the clean vocals. And then as far as the actual songwriting is concerned, they blend the best of the kind of progressive elements that, Voivod influenced other bands in having, if it makes sense what I'm saying, with some straightforward stuff. Like, they don't get lost in the progressive side of things. They bring it in when they need to keep things interesting, to mix it up a little bit, and then they move on, or they get back to the heavies. Very good stuff. Gets a thumbs up from me. A reminder as well that you should check out Arborea. Arborea is Trevor Ports' other band, and it was actually the main reason why I had him on the podcast back in the day. There are 2 Arborea records. One is the self-titled debut that came out back in 2022, and then the other one is Depths, which came out in 2024. Depths in particular, I fucking love. But good to see Ashen Horde are still alive and kicking. Samael have got a new single out as well. 9 years after the release of their 10th studio album, Hegemony, Samael return with their new 12-inch. Sorry, by the way, that I'm fucking up so much today. I feel like I'm stuttering over or staggering over my words a little more than usual. And the reason for that is I'm recording this on a Friday after a long ass day at work and a long ass week. But like I said, if I don't do it, there's a chance I'm going to miss next week's episode, and I'm not doing that. So, but again, like I said, apologize if I sound like I'm all over the place on this particular news rant. I'm still enjoying myself, and I hope you are too. So it says here, Samael returned with a new 12-inch double single, Hidden Empire Black Matter Manifesto, out on April the 24th, 2026 via Napalm Records. You can give Hidden Empire a listen right now. So they don't have a new album coming out then. This is just a single, much like Black Matter Manifesto. And I think we heard Black Matter Manifesto, and it failed to live up to expectations. I thus believe that we will probably be similarly disappointed by Hidden Empire, but let's find out. There are some definite echoes here of Passage and of Eternal, the albums that Samael put out in 1996 and 1999. And I must say, potentially because of that, I am enjoying Hidden Empire a lot more than I enjoyed Black Matter Manifesto. Also, I cannot believe that they would be working, or that they would release those two singles and there not be a full-length album in the works. But I mean, they have released singles. There was one put out in 2022 called Dictate of Transparency, which, no, I was just double checking now, that actually did appear on Hegemony. Anyway, forget being pedantic about what they're doing or what they might not be doing. The song itself, as I said, first things first, it is significantly better than Black Matter Manifesto. It is also significantly better than anything I can recall hearing of Hegemony, Lux Mundi, or above, and Solar Soul, and Era One for that matter. Probably also Reign of Light, and now we're going all the way back to those albums that I just mentioned now. It is not Blood Ritual, and it is not Ceremony of Opposites, but I highly doubt that's what we're ever going to hear from Samael ever again. Much as they might like to tour and play those albums back to back, I just don't think we're ever going to hear music that sounds like that from them ever again, which is a shame, because Blood Ritual and Ceremony of Opposites, to me, are, I mean, it's certainly two of the most influential albums for me, Ceremony of Opposites in particular. And I mean, I don't know whether to call them underrated, but when people celebrate black metal as a genre, that's not, Ceremony of Opposites isn't one of the first albums that they will name check, but really it should be, because it is fucking masterful, absolutely masterful. As far as that song is concerned, yeah, I don't know if I'm going to give it a thumbs up. I'll give it a cautious thumbs up. Okay, Testament present Envy Life lyric video. We've already if you haven't heard the song Envy Life, I don't know what's wrong with you. It's off the album Practice What You Preach. They're reissuing it, as you should know, and those reissues sound great, but the albums were fucking great before, so they should be records that you listened to on a very, very regular basis. We then have a new track by Spirit Adrift. Not something I'm in the mood to listen to. I do like Nate Garrett, but I mostly like him for his YouTube channel. I think he seems like a pretty decent dude. Neon Dream, or whatever the hell that fucking shite is called, that he does, where he attempts to pay tribute to Typo Negative, that I genuinely can't stand. And for no other reason than, as you all know, or at least you should know, Neon Nightmare, by the way, is what they're called. As you should know, I don't accept any. I accept nothing that sounds or even attempts to sound remotely like Typo Negative. There is only one Typo Negative, and that is all there is to it. Okay, here's one, and then I think it's just about time for us to wrap up. Uada debut a new cover. Black metal ensemble Uada have premiered their rendition of a Rome song, Der Brandtaucher. Apologies to everybody in Germany. The latter will appear on the band's oncoming studio record, Interwoven, and that is set to land in stores on April the 10th through Eisenwald. You all know I fucking loved that cover that they did of Something in the Way. So let's hear whether they can do Rome justice as well. Well, one thing is for sure, Uada are they tempting fate covering a Rome song. And when I say they're tempting fate, before they know it, they will be front and center of the revised version of Is It Sketch's banned list, their naughty list. Rome, of course, have come under a lot of suspicion by certain quarters of the internet and Reddit for their frontman's views. I happen to like Rome very much, and as I have said before, a Rome record that I strongly endorse and strongly suggest you listen to if you haven't heard it yet, A Passage to Rhodesia. Just stunning neo-folk music. I'm not even the biggest neo-folk fan, but that is just an incredible record. Dark, somber, brooding, but you know it has a historical connection to the land of my birth that probably makes it a bit more of a sentimental listen to me as well. But as they did with that Something in the Way cover, Uada have done a sensational job here. They add their own flair to it. they do exactly what a band should do with a cover, which is digest, absorb, I was going to say regurgitate, play it back to us in translated into their creative tongue. They have done that year to an absolute turn. So much as was my view with the previous records previous songs we heard off this record, if this is the direction that UARTA took on a more permanent basis, I would strongly support that. But either way, this has been enough, the last 3 singles that we've heard, for me to really stop and reassess my views on this band. And I now consider myself a UARTA fan, which I didn't do a year ago. That is saying something. So kudos to them on that song. Top notch, and I cannot wait to hear the whole record. Also, as I said, big fan of Rome. There is no swirly of the week, which I know will come as devastating news to you all, but the reason why is I actually did have an idea for a swirly, but I figured it's honestly not really, it's not fully swirly worthy, at least not to the point where we're going to use the official Into the Necrosphere swirly segue. But one thing I did want to mention, and I'm sharing a screen grab of something here with you, which I'll explain the context of in just a second. So I had Cheyenne on the podcast about 3 weeks ago, and he and I always tend to cover some spicy topics. We have we spoke of, as you would have expected us to, about his home country of Iran. At the time, it was really focused on the protests that had taken place there, but also his views on the government, his views on the Islamic religion and its relationship to the Iranian people, and much, much more. I don't think that it was a particularly contentious or controversial episode. We've certainly had far more controversial episodes than the one we recorded, that night. But clearly someone didn't like it, because about 2 days or so after that episode was published, I started getting it started first 2-3 days were ones and twos. Started getting emails being sent to my personal email address, where it's sending me a validation code saying somebody has requested a validation code to change the password on intothenecrosphere@gmail.com. You guys know it. You've probably experienced it many times before. And that happened like 2-3 times. It always happened to intothenecrosphere.com, intothenecrosphere@gmail.com, not any of my other email addresses. And then it started to intensify. 2-3 times suddenly turned into 5-6 times, turned into 10 times. Like I had on one day about 12 times that somebody tried to get into my into the necrosphere@gmail.com email address. And then at the same time, people started trying to get into my into the Necrosphere Instagram account as well. Again, didn't touch my personal Instagram. Didn't touch, actually also try to get into my Facebook account via my intothenecrosphere.com address. But yeah, didn't touch anything that wasn't an Into the Necrosphere account, is what I'm trying to say. Which, I don't want to sound hyper paranoid, but, you have to kind of put 2 and 2 together there and notice a pattern, if you know what I mean. And then 2 nights ago, I woke up to a message saying we blocked a suspicious login attempt. This was from Instagram, and the login attempt had been made at 5:33 a.m. in London. Somebody tried to log in with your into your account with your password. We were able to stop them before they got access, but you should change your password to keep your account secure. It's probably by no small irony that whoever tried to log in did so near a place called Ye Old Cock Tavern. And they were also across the road from a place called the Amicable Society of Lazy Ballerinas. Now, I got to say, it could only be 2 kinds of suspects that I suspect only a member of 2 possible groups that could have been so aggrieved by what I said in that conversation with Cheyenne that they would try and hack my socials. Either it's some fucking piss pants, low testosterone weasel from the Is It Sketch subreddit, or it's some nutcase fundamentalist. Either way, I don't know what the fuck they think they're going to find when they finally manage to crack the code and get in. I mean, if they think there's some lurid exchange between me and some, some of the Legion's tens of female fans, you're not going to see that. I'm terrified enough of my wife that's never going to happen. And then the second thing is, I mean, if you think there's going to be some sort of smoking gun far right emails, that's also never going to happen for reasons I don't even have to explain. So it's just, to me, whoever is doing it is a fucking complete and utter turd. And so while I'm not issuing an official swirly of the week, I am issuing an IOU, because when I find out who it is, we're going to find out how quickly a human being, or how much toilet water a human being can swallow in a record amount of time. Because Jesus Christ, if you can't even try and have if you can't even have what was a very reasonable conversation with a bro on your own podcast without somebody getting so pissed off that they try and hack your socials. And as I said, if they were trying it with all of my social media accounts, then I can totally then I would just go, well, it's just standard hacking behavior. But all of this is into the Necrosphere, and all of this started straight after my interview with Cheyenne. So I cannot help but to be suspicious. But anyway, there you go. No swirly this week, but there's definitely an IOU for a swirly. On that note, friends, I think that episode 310 is wrapped up and in the books. I want to say thank you very much if you've listened all the way to the very end of the episode. Hope that you guys are keeping well. Hope that you stay well, whatever it is that you're doing, wherever it is that you're going. Stay healthy, stay safe, and I'll see you bad motherfuckers again next week.